G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Thursday the 12th of July. So here we are on the daily chart. We're just looking at this red candle here. So even though it's it looks like it's pushed down, it's actually a candle where we've got a pretty good bounce and a market that really pushed it and bounced off this significant support level here. So you can see marked in, I just added a few more lines just to show a little bit more of the detail within the dailies. Something I do on my own daily chart and mark in these areas, and they become really quite significant. These support, resistance and trend lines. It's a great way to gauge an overall view of the market, and certainly had a view today that if it could get some sort of formation where it held and started to get a reversal pattern or a holding pattern I should say, and a continuation of this this buying area, you can see overall we're definitely in an uptrend, but at the moment we've just been having a pullback. But if we got some sort of holding formation, the upside was going to be really keen on that, and you couple that with a few other things which I'm going to bring up and share in a sec. But just as far as today is concerned, the 5-minute chart here first of all, so you can see to start off with, we continue to get this downward pressure. Keeping in mind, you always got in mind that where these daily levels exist, and kind of where this area here is, around about this daily line where we thought we could get support. If all of a sudden we start getting down underneath it, and then when it starts bouncing up like this and then pushing down again and breaking its lows, well then there's a good chance maybe we're heading down to the next support level and the buyers aren't ready to come back yet. So it's the way that you kind of interpret these markets from a real overall perspective. But in saying that, these markets had a push down to start off in the morning, and they got to this stage here where they looked like they formed a bit of a low, retraced a bit, and then came back at the lows again. Watching the other markets and a few things like that, just didn't look like there was any power or any momentum with the sellers. And when we get into the 1-minute chart, it shows a bit better. We started to see this bit of a rounded bottom forming, and all of a sudden you get this pattern or this holding formation where the buyers are really starting to develop some momentum, and from there really started to push higher. These areas around here, I think if you're looking at trying to buy through here, obviously it's very early and quite aggressive, so you've got some levels you can imagine, 1324 area, the market really wants to get up above that. So what happens is the market got up above it, not with any sort of conviction yet or anything like that, came back, sort of tested it, pushed higher. Then this real aggressive green candle here, and again 1-minute chart will show some more detail. This was an area where I believe the buyers really made their sells known, and again it came back, bounced off the top of this bottom range or sideways area here, and that's where these buyers really took control for the day. This is quite a decent uptrend here, even though I've got the chart quite squashed down, but from there 22 all the way up to 34, that's a good 12-point move on the upside there. So a real solid move up from the buyers. From there we had this area here as far as momentum area or some sort of fading area. I think had a lot of value. As we're pushing up and making this run to the highs, and then it's coming back and bouncing off the support levels, there's a good chance it's going to hold and then go. Have a look at these highs over here, so you can see that's exactly where the market's gone. It's pulled back, so not any sort of major pullback, but then it started going back at highs again. And this area here, especially in this little zone here, and again when we get to 1-minute chart, I'll be able to have a little bit more of a detailed look at price action, but it looked really good to continue and get a continuation and to push through these levels and head to basically the next level on the daily chart, which, just to show you, is up here at, where are we? Up here at 44, but there's another level more on a shorter term basis, about 33, 34, and that's exactly where it headed to. Just to bring over something else that I'd encourage you to do, and that's use what I'd call a medium term market. Okay, so obviously we've got a daily market which had up before. It's all support and resistance areas, trend lines, and getting an overall view for where this market's heading. Areas it could possibly hold, and are we in an overall buyers trend or sellers trend, and things like that. And then of course we use the 1-minute and the 5-minute charts to really get some more specific information, look for exact entries and things like that. But a middle term market, so this is a 15-minute market, provides a lot more kind of the overall swings of the market. So we're not talking about overall direction, but we're talking about the swings within the overall direction. So you can see of lately we've been getting some, these markets pushing down. We've been seeing that through the retracement on the daily charts, and and this is it here, and previously as well. But this chart here is showing about 2 days. Then all of a sudden we started to, so this is this cash market here, this little zone here is the cash market. So then we started to push up higher, and you can see all of a sudden we've broken convincingly out of this downward channel, come back and kind of held off it, and then pushed higher. And then considering where we are on the daily charts, that we're getting bouncing off support and there's plenty of room to head up, that's why it was a day where we could really potentially head higher. And this sort of area here is where we started to break out of the channel, and made this area really convincing as far as the upside was concerned. So something like that, a 15-minute chart, I think it just puts you in a little bit more perspective of where we are as far as more of a longer term view. I don't use those sort of charts for entries. I just more to use it as a gauge of where we're going. And also, what I really use a 15-minute chart is for exits. So most time I've got a predetermined exit, anywhere from, depending on the individual trader, but a general target as far as we're concerned is anywhere from 8 to 12, 14 ticks, so 2-3 points. Something like this, if you're getting long round here, but there's real opportunity to go for something like 5-6 points. So there is times in the market where you can go for more, and establishing your exits is a very important part of trading. It's something that you should really put a lot of time and effort into as far as developing and putting that in your trading system as well. Trading is all about exits as well as entry. Quite often there's maybe too much focus on the entry, and you really need to look at exits as well. So something like a 15-minute chart, me personally, use that as a good guide to where it could potentially go for more. Of course, not going for more all the time. You've got to really, I think it's important to stick to some solid bread and butter sort of areas where you really, you're just locking your 2-3 points, but then you establish a few trades that can go for a few more, and that really makes a difference to your monthly profitability. So from there we pushed up higher, we got to this 34, 33 level and bounced back down off that, and then from all this area here looked really good as far as a buying area. Again, which keeping that 15-minute chart in mind and that daily chart in mind. There's just no way once we start getting up like this that all of a sudden we're going to see the sellers come back down and get below sort of this level here, probably the top of this range here. I just couldn't see that really happening, or at worst case, or the bottom area around here, like 26, 27 area. And from there we got another pullback, pushed up higher. We got a real sort of sideways trending area here, and again there's a few key areas on the 1 minute chart which we'll go through. Then we've come back and again made a push for the highs, and then just had a little bit of a sell-off. Maybe there's some people take profit towards the end of the day, and where are we now? And we're just sort of consolidating and trying to push a little bit higher. On the 1 minute chart, so here we go. This downside, this is something I quite often talk about, is trying to establish a trend early on. These markets can quite often deal sideways for a little bit. Of recent times we've been seeing them pick a trend and just get sort of going for it. This particular day here you can see a bit of a range here, so a sideways range. The market's pushed down. When you see something like that, if you see some power or consolidate, like some real movement or pressure on the downside or upside, whichever way you're looking at it. In this case, it's pushing down. You see all the other markets going with it too. And then it kind of pops back to the bottom of this range. Quite often the bottom of this range, or just within that range, is a great spot to sell from. It's often an area I look from it, and what you want to see is the other markets really consolidating that direction as well, and indicating that it's not just a false move down, and that this is the way that they're going to push for the for the first hour or two of the day. So opportunity there. From there we push down through a couple of power points here. And then all through this area here, this is where we really started, I guess the buying movement started to form from here. You can see they're trying to push higher. Sort of resistance levels aren't holding really strong. It's not like they've got some power, apart from this initial push down here. They're popping up through resistance levels. As far as pushing down, they're struggling. And you can see the markets sort of really dealing sideways and not making any aggressive moves down, and they keep popping up. And these lows, even though they are slightly lower lows, it's not with any sort of conviction. Then all of a sudden, here's the turning point here. Again, taking this sort of power fade here, even though this one worked, it's a very aggressive one. Quite often you might see it, pop back into the range and then go. So, again, aggressive, but I suppose one that if you get it right, there's certainly a lot of potential for it. Just depends on the individual trader how aggressive you want to be with your strategy. But what you want to see is the market push up and break this range. So once we start breaking this range, it's looking starting to look good as far as a potential move to the upside here, considering that the longer term basis or the medium term basis, there is room for an upwards move. So here, I think this initial push up here, it's certainly not convincing at this stage here. And quite often you see this, it'll just pop back up into the range. And then this is the area I talked about in the 5-minute chart where we see some real aggressive 1-minute candles here, as far as buyers showing their power. And what I'm seeing here is that there's just no sellers. The sellers are being pushed out of this market. Not really convinced that they can go lower, and the buyers have kind of won back this bit of a stranglehold, and from there it popped back to this level here. So you can see pop back to the top of this sideways range, and then this is the start of the up move and away it went. This is this bit of a pullback here. So within here, some price action to talk about. So what I like through here, there's a level around about 27, which was a significant level on the daily chart. So what we're looking is to get up through there. So you can see we pushed up through it, come back down, push back up again, and then it's kind of just temporarily come back here, and then this is where the really aggressive buyers start, and from there it's launched itself. So unless you're looking for it, this kind of just looks like a bit of a sideways move with nothing really there. But if you're looking for key levels, significant areas, and you're watching those levels, so 27 was a very key level, and if you're keeping that in mind, you can really see how the price forms around it. And there was definitely some real consolidation and some holding patterns forming there around that 27 level, and it looked really good to just go from it again. And then of course away it went. And then using that 15-minute chart and longer term charts, there's a real opportunity for this market to potentially go to 33, 34 and look for longer moves, and that's eventually what it did do. From there we pushed up, we popped back here off a level. So this is a level, obviously there's a support level here which is really quite obvious one to see, but if you go back through a couple of days ago too, that 13, 30, 50 was also a significant level as well. So potentially a good area where it could hold and go higher from. Or another level, if that doesn't hold, something you want to see hold is probably again come back round to this 27 level or 28. So the top of this range, anywhere down to I guess 27, 27.50, and you should see it hold. As long as the buyers are getting momentum of really stamped out these sellers, in which case it looked like it was definitely what was happening. That's a good place to go from. So that's what happened here. They've tried to come back. They didn't quite get that low. But again, even when we're coming back quite strongly here like this, I'm really convinced that this is at some stage going to hold and go higher. This is this real sideways sort of movement around here. What we're looking for, again, keeping that 30-50 level in mind. So it bounced off it here once, it pushed through it here again. So once we get underneath it, what we're looking for is to come back up, get a bounce off it, and then go again. So that's some key price action movement around here. So you can see we've come back up through it with quite some aggression, and as we're coming back down, look for it potentially to hold somewhere around here, and you can see all through this level here it's held. It's quite choppy, quite sideways, but you can see that level 30, 50, 31 really quite significant. Once the market got back up above it, it was looking to hold, and that's where it's eventually gone higher from. And then we've got this bit of a sell-off in the afternoon. So quite an interesting day, some really key levels, and it's amazing what these markets do once you put it all into perspective and line it up with some predetermined levels. Have a look at some of the more longer term markets as well, and you can really start to feel like you're in control of this market and sort of be making your moves and always be thinking from the front foot as opposed to being on the back foot where you can't react to the markets. Always be on the front foot and sort of try and see the moves coming, and that's the best way to trade. So that's a wrap up for, what was it, Thursday? We'll speak to you guys Friday.